So we'll say victory to the Portuguese dock workers. Yes. Victory to the Portuguese dock workers. Victory to the Portuguese dock workers. Victory to the Portuguese dock workers.
My name is Steve Zeltzer with United Public Workers for Action. I'm also a member of the CWA. We're here to support the 300 Port of Setúbal dock workers who are fighting against being forced into part-time jobs. And they're struggling, and they've been is deregulating the docks and wants to make them temporary workers. And in San Francisco and around the world, workers are being forced out of regular jobs. They're losing their benefits and conditions. And we believe that this struggle requires international solidarity, and that's why we're here today. And the fight of longshoremen around the world is critical because in San Francisco in 1934, there was actually a general strike for a hiring hall and against a shape-up. And that's exactly what the Portuguese government and the bosses are trying to do. They want everybody to be temporary, and they want a shape-up. And what does that mean for workers in a shape-up? It means you have no protection. It means you're at the will, the beck and call of the bosses. And I was, in 1999, there was a paper called The Beeper Revolution, which was produced in Seoul about the plan to have everybody in a beeper. And I think today with technology, the internet and the cell phones, this technology is not being used to free people. It's being used to have workers work at call, at will, and with no benefits. And therefore, our solidarity here today is with the dock workers against these attacks, and we hope that the Portuguese government, their consulate here, get the message that working people have to be defended, and that there is an international campaign to support them, and they're not alone. I know the IDC, International Dock Workers Council, is supporting them, and we believe that only by international solidarity can we really actually defend working.
Hello, brothers and sisters. My name is George Romero. I'm fortunate enough to be a pensioner from Local 10 ILWU longshoremen. And we understand what's going on here with the casualization, making people just have no work schedule, basically have no expectation of having a steady income, yet the employers have an expectation of a steady workforce to be available whenever they need them without any obligation on their part to sustain them. And that's unacceptable for working people. It's certainly unacceptable for longshoremen. And we're wishing our brothers and sisters in Portugal all the best to keep struggling and stay strong and be successful in protecting themselves and their families.
The ILWU has played a very important historic role in fighting to support the struggle of workers around the world. In fact, the ILWU was important in supporting the struggle against apartheid, against the attack on the apartheid system in South Africa. They actually had a dock workers action not to load cargo from South Africa, which helped the struggle of the South African working class. And actually that's one of the reasons governments are trying to deregulate the docks, because they don't want the longshore workers to have power. We're talking men and women, not just men, who are on the docks, and they don't want them to have power, because if these workers have power, they can not only support themselves, but they can support workers like these auto workers at Volkswagen, where they're loading cars. If you had a strong dock workers union, that could play an important role in helping the Volkswagen workers in Portugal. So this is really an international struggle, and auto workers as well are facing attacks with temporary part-time jobs, 3 tiers. I mean, a lot of auto workers now are working 3 tiers in the United States. I mean, $14, $15 an hour. You're producing cars, and you can't even afford to buy your car. In fact, you can't even afford to live have your own apartment, and you have to live with your parents. A lot of young people today are living with their parents because they can't afford housing. So we know that this is a very important struggle for decent conditions, decent wages. And what we know is the workers at Setúbal have been attacked by the police. They're trying to break their picket lines, and we're saying that the Portuguese government has to take responsibility for that. This government is supporting these attacks, supporting the repression of workers, and who are they representing? They're representing the dock bosses, the employers, these big companies that want to get rid of all unionized labor. So this is not just a struggle in Portugal, it's a struggle all over the world. Defend the Portugal dockers.
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 Aquí estamos en solidaridad con los estibadores en Portugal que están protestando en contra de las condiciones onerosas que están sufriendo, en contra de esa compañía que los oprime y le niega condiciones adecuadas de vida para ellos. El gobierno portugués es cómplice de estas acciones. El gobierno portugués le provee protección a estas compañías explotadoras. El gobierno portugués es un gobierno capitalista, es cooperador y participante de la OTAN con los Estados Unidos. Así que el gobierno portugués dedica parte de su presupuesto para sus fuerzas armadas que participen en acciones en complicidad con el imperialismo norteamericano, pero a la misma vez le niega y ayuda a una compañía explotadora de trabajadores de esta empresa en Portugal, de industria automotriz. Reclamamos solidaridad y estamos siempre presentes en la lucha en solidaridad con los trabajadores, sea en Portugal o en cualquier parte del mundo que se encuentren bajo ataque. Arriba los trabajadores de Portugal, abajo el capitalismo, abajo el imperialismo. I just said that we are right here in solidarity with the workers that these that are on strike and are being repressed in Portugal. They are being done so with the complicity of the Portuguese government. The Portuguese government is an accomplice of the United States adventures. It's a member of NATO, and it has part of its budget for military purposes supporting U.S. adventures around the world, and NATO, which is just an imperialist military alliance. And that's what the Portuguese government does. Instead of repressing these workers, what they should be doing is helping these workers. But it's capitalism, and unfortunately, governments under capitalism, they are accomplices and participants of the exploitation of the workers that work in whatever type of industry they're working. So, I just want to make it short and say, long live the solidarity of American workers and workers from Latin America, from Spain, from everywhere in the world, with the striking Portuguese workers.
Okay, thanks, Steve, for calling this demonstration, and I wish to pass out my solidarity to the dock workers of Setúbal and all of Portugal in this struggle. I'm amazed at this just how far back workers have been pushed since I can look back in 1973, and the Communist Party of Portugal could have taken power at that time. That's how strong the working class was there in that period. And here today, the dock workers of Setúbal are basically working like we were in this country in the 1920s, without a union hall, without a hiring hall, and no control over their day-to-day activities, so that the bosses have complete control over the workers. And as this says here, it's the government and their bosses in the corporate sector that are running the show, as they're running it all over the world. Corporations and the bankers are telling us what to do and when to do it. And of course they do it with the help of their government stooges. So I would call on all the the Portuguese dock workers throughout the country to go out in solidarity for their brothers and sisters in Setúbal, because the cops busted up their picket line and escorted the scabs across the picket line in defense of Volkswagen. Volkswagen wanted to get their cars exported, so that's what they did. They asked for the police help in doing that, which they do all over the world. So if the rest of the dock workers in Portugal went on a strike in solidarity, I'm sure that kind of stuff would end.
Exposing corporate corruption on a grand scale, globally. The corporatists, the globalists, it's an ongoing problem. As you know, that the Uberization of the world business model is being repeated with the Portuguese dock workers, which is, it's a shame, and it's worse than that, it's criminal. Because these are corporations that are putting profits before people. And corporations are entitled to make a profit, but not an extreme profit at the cost of human suffering is way too high of a cost. So profit, not extreme profit. Everyone has to share. Everyone has to share in order to continue in business. We understand that, but extreme exploitation of human capital is not acceptable. And this is something that we ourselves, Alliance for Independent Workers, we had an action, and we were very grateful to Steve Seltzer, who came out and supported and did an excellent video on YouTube. So we appreciate that. As you see, Uber Stop Abusing Workers, Cities, hashtag Drivers Unite, gigsup.org, and it's the Alliance for Independent Workers. Now, there has become this defeatist attitude amongst many workers because they feel that they are the small Davids against the Goliath. But it's not the truth, because when you get millions of Davids together, we actually have more power than the Goliaths that exist. We have sheer numbers in terms of support, and that is real people power. When we have people power, it goes beyond the resources of the corporatists of the world. So we can make a huge difference when we unite in strength, in collaborations, and with other organizations globally. As the Alliance for Independent Workers, we have global partners in the UK, the UPHD, also the IWGB, Independent Workers of Great Britain, Rideshare Drivers Cooperative in Australia are working with us as well. In Portugal, we have a few team members as well, because they're experiencing the same types of abuse that the Portuguese dock workers are experiencing. The corporations, they want more and more, and they're paying less and less, and they want to squeeze as much work as they can out of each individual. It's not about sustainability, has nothing to do with sustainability, has to do with extreme profits at the cost of human suffering. And they will burn through human beings just like machines. They are expendable, replaceable, disposable in their eyes, not in ours. And that's why we're here to say that we need to stand in solidarity against these types of abuses and exploitation of workers across the globe. Portuguese dock workers, we're in solidarity with you. We understand the suffering. It is happening globally, and we cannot tolerate and put up with that. It has to stop. We have to change it. We cannot expect politicians to make that happen. They are very slow moving, and they answer quite a bit to the corporatists globally, and it's not acceptable. But we have to call their attention to these matters and make them do their job for the people. This is for the people, by the people, and of the people. But we have to demand that. We have to require it. We have to make it function. And it has to be made to work for the people, not the corporate machine. So we need to put our bodies against that machine and make it stop if it's not going to help the people. So we are here, we're saying Uber Lyft, stop abusing worker cities, and we're in solidarity with the Portuguese dock workers that are experiencing the same type of exploitation on a grand scale. People, this is happening all over the world, and we need to bring attention to this, and people need to care instead of just walking by and pretending that it doesn't happen to them, but it will. Taxpayers, at the end of the day, are funding the corporation's bottom line profit when they are behaving badly. Ultimately, the middle class, the taxpayers, foot the bill and pay the price. But the price of human suffering is too huge a price. We need to stand together to find solutions. So, si se puede, yes we can. Si se puede, yes we can. Si se puede, yes we can. Estamos aquí apoyando a los trabajadores en Portugal y diciendo que estamos aquí en solidaridad y aquí apoyando sus esfuerzos, que estás peleando contra las corporaciones que están abusando los derechos de los trabajadores. Estamos aquí listos para apoyar y estamos aquí en corazón y en vida también para apoyarte a todo dar. Así que sí se puede y sí se puede.
The right to a union is a human right. The right to a union is a human right. The right to a union is a human right. The right to a union is a human right.